What's up, y'all? It's the Sound Alchemist here with
Gersh1.
And we're back at it to answer your questions in another episode of For the Greater.
So this is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, simply comment down below. Put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. Amen. And that is what Commando Lando did. He asks, not entirely sure if this has been a vid on this before, but what is the full extent of latent psychic ability in orcs? Like, I've heard that they paint vehicles red because they think it makes them faster. Due to their belief, their red vehicles actually do move slightly faster. What if a massive amount of orcs were convinced that the Emperor had been rejuvenated? Would Big E rise from the Golden Throne due to the most physical belief in the rumor? So first let's tackle the whole concept of Ork psychic abilities. So the Ork psychic ability was created or was implanted into them by the Old Ones. What the Old Ones were trying to do is create a creature that was able to use psychic powers to fight the Necrons. The way that they wanted this new race, which they called the Krorks, which were really the Orcs, they wanted this race to instinctively manipulate warp without actually having to put too much effort into it. So in other words, like a Dark Eldar, like a Eldar, they can, bring up like flames or whatever. A librarian can do the same thing. They could shoot out beams from their eyes or what have you. An orc was supposed to simply believe something happening and that thing were to happen. The belief that the orc had would be a psychic manifestation in the warp and thus created in real space. Does that make sense?
Yes, I get where I follow you.
So it's like the orc thinks it, goes to the warp, and then it happens through the warp powers in real space. Very different from humans and other races, because usually when humans and other races think of something, it happens in the immaterium and it stays in the immaterium. But for the orcs, it happens in the immaterium and then it happens or it creates in front of them.
Right.
Now there is limitations to this, like they can't think all their enemies dead and then they die. That's not how it works.
They wouldn't want that anyway because they want to fight.
Yeah, they want to fight.
Yeah.
So in that way, that is how vehicles and stuff works. Now, we do get the question a lot of how or if the Emperor could be reborn by the orcs believing that he's reborn. Orcs would never believe that. It would never be a thing. All the orcs that fought the Emperor or that know of the Emperor are probably dead by now. So during the Eleanor campaign, that was pretty much the biggest fight that they had with the Emperor.
Right. And
then from then on, it kind of just was sporadic fights here and there. Now, if they were all to gather together and believe that the Emperor is alive, I'm pretty sure that he would not be alive. Just because it doesn't really work that way. Like, orc psychic abilities is not that powerful.
I mean, it's strong enough to affect their weaponry. For example, if an orc believes he doesn't need to reload, then his weapon would have like infinite ammo, so to speak.
Yes.
But that
pales to comparison as to reviving someone.
Right.
Especially somebody like the Emperor.
As powerful as the Emperor.
Yeah.
So based on that explanation, how does that affect, like, what am I trying to say here? So, like, does that include warp heads, since those are a little bit different than just the whole orc community?
Yeah, so, like, a warp head is more like a librarian that they can actually shoot flames from their hands and whatnot. So, their manipulation of warp or their psychic abilities are much more like in your face and like powerful,
refined, I guess.
Yeah, whereas like a regular orc, it just happens subconsciously without them realizing that they're manipulating psychic energy. Yeah, and also the Emperor's not dead, so he can't be revived.
Or half alive.
Yeah,
depends on how you see it. That was a good, interesting question. But based on that, there's another question I have here that kind of pertains to it a little bit, and that is, how is, was it Officer Yarrick? Commander Yarrick?
Oh, Commissar Yarrick?
Commissar Yarrick. How was he able to use an orc claw? Well, two reasons. One, it's supposed to be illegal for
xenotechnology to be used.
Yeah, and then the second reason, orc tech should only technically work with orcs. So how does that work?
So Commissar Yarrick, you have to understand where he's coming from. He's coming from Armageddon. On Armageddon, the battle, it was so chaotic, so destructive, that the Doctrine Imperialis, which is the doctrines that the Imperial Guard follow, at least I think it is, kind of went out the window, and it was just like, just give me results. So when a commissar comes out with using xenotechnology, there's nobody that's going to stop him. He's a commissar. He kills them.
Right.
They don't kill him. So that's what happened. And it's also a way, or probably the Imperial High Command saw that, hey, Commissar Yarrick is like inspiring people. He's like leading charges, holding down hive cities.
Not only this, but actually the Space Marines that were fighting in Armageddon began listening and following to his orders. So that shows you how much of a beast this guy was.
Yeah, so then they were like, all right, let's bend the rules. He can use it. Now, as far as like xenotechnology, I have a theory that the same way that orcs use psychic abilities to manipulate their weapons, humans, so long as they, are surrounded by orcs and kind of like are in orc culture, they can manipulate those same powers because humans do have psychic ability. So I think that Commissar Yarrick does have a bit of psychic power, and also it comes down to the mechanics of it all. They didn't just like take the power claw from that knob and put it on Yarrick, and then it like ultimately worked. No, they put it on Yarrick. The tech priest had to manipulate it.
Yeah, there's like a power core that feels it.
Yeah, in order for it to work. Same thing with his eye.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much that it's just like ripped off of his hand and stuck onto him, and then it works. No, it's like the tech priest completely like redid it so that it works for humans.
Right.
But with that said, the orc hunters of Armageddon do use orc weaponry, and I think that it's the same way. Like they don't have a gun or a shooter that just keeps firing, and they believe that it fires, so it's going to keep firing. No, they have a shooter that they've toyed around with, and that now works.
Right. Another kind of thing that I was kind of thinking about while you were speaking that is that Gaskell and his boys and whatnot, they were actually having a great time fighting Yarrick. Yarrick was like giving him kind of not a challenge, so to speak. So because of that, there was actually, I think, an instance or two where Yarrick could have been killed by Gaskell, but Gaskell let him go. He's like, oh, this guy's fun, Let's see how much.
Captured and everything, yep.
Yeah. So based on that, maybe the orcs are believing that, Yarrick's such a good, a good fighter and whatnot. Let's keep him around longer. And that belief is fueling their weapons, the orc technology that he has and whatnot. So.
Yeah, that's true, because like orcs fear Yarrick. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, if an orc believes he can shoot a person, he's just gonna shoot randomly. But if an orc believes that this one person, Commissar Yarrick, is like so badass that none of his bullets are gonna hit him, none of his bullets are gonna hit him. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Great question. We've spent like almost half this video talking about it. But we've got to move on. Really thought-provoking question, guys. And it's mail time. So we've got some mail sent to us by Dane. This is what he says. To Gersh and Sound Alchemist. I was the one that sent in the model earlier, which was the Terminator model. And it was a model for me, the Sound Alchemist, for the Celestial Sons. It was supposed to be a captain, but he forgot to put the iron halo. It's alright, Jane. Really awesome model. I do use it from time to time. He says that he's 23 and he's from the UK. He first started watching our videos when a couple of friends told him about us. And then he made a request for a video on the Angels of Mercy. Now, the Angels of Mercy is his fan chapter that he created to work alongside my Celestial Son. So that's pretty awesome, man. In this letter, you tell us that you put in a piece of art. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it is a... is that the Psy Titan?
It's a Titan, yep.
Yeah, it's a Titan, so he wants us to sign it and send it back to you. So, yeah, that's definitely something we can do for you, Dane. Unfortunately...
So you're from the UK,
yeah,
and you put your postal code, and we need the full address.
Mm-hmm.
So hit us up on Facebook. It's Facebook / One Mind Syndicate, right?
Yeah.
Or just comment, message us here on YouTube, and then we'll get in contact with you, and then we'll send you that signed picture. Yep.
Thank you for the model. Really awesome work, and thanks for the letter.
Yeah, thanks so much for the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. This question comes from Bruno Whitman. Hey guys, I love your show. Thank you. I got my hands on a shitload of Australian Firstborn, but I also really like Space Marines. So the question is, what Space Marine chapter, lore-wise, would be the most logical to combine with the Vostrian, and which chapter would you choose yourself?
The Imperial Fists would be a very good choice because they tend to be city fighters, and that's exactly what the Imperial Fists specialize in.
Yep, and the Vostrians are known for being city fighters. They're kind of also in like the Obscura sector, which is kind of like where everybody, or where all the craziness is happening. So you have Cadia, you have a plethora of different chapters that fight there. But you did ask for our opinion as to like what to create, or what chapter to create, and I would say just create my own. Like, go all out and create a chapter that fits the Vostrian like theme. So check out our 40 facts on the Vostrians if we don't have it already. I'll double check, and then of course, base a new chapter, kind of working with them, because I know the Vostrians are really close to the
Adeptus Mechanicus.
Yeah,
they get a lot of tanks from they're very mobilized because of that. So.
Yep, so maybe your Space Marine chapter would be somehow also connected to Mars and all that kind of stuff.
Another thing, though, is that the Vostroyans also have a very particular style of weaponry. I mean, yeah, it's the same weapon, so to speak, but with like more of a twist to it. So maybe you can incorporate that with your Space Marine Legion that comes and helps them out and stuff like that. So.
Yep, kit bashing.
Yeah, really awesome stuff going on there.
Next question. Oh no.
I had one. Okay. Morton Sando. Question about the Ork clans. There are evil sons that are speed freaks, goths that are common orcs, snakebites that are sneaky, and etc. But is there a clan that prefers cybernetics, cyborgs, and pain boys and mad docs?
Freebooters would, because freebooters usually tend to be the outcasts. They tend to be the ones that have been injured. The mech boys have like worked on them, and now they look all weird. And some orcs kind of push that away, especially like the goths, who are the conservative orcs. And then you have, because the freebooters are an outcast cast. They usually tend to favor people that nobody likes, like Mad Docs, because Mad Docs and Pain Boys, they hurt orcs.
Yeah.
Sometimes the orc is perfectly fine, and they still get their heads chopped up or like arms removed and whatnot.
Metal jaws and shit.
So definitely a freebooter clan.
Definitely. Or make your own clan. There's always a chance that some spores got intermixed with like warp dust or something like that, and it becomes a whole new clan of orcs.
Yep, the lore lets you do that. And those were the questions for today. Thank you for sending them our way. If you guys have more questions, or if you commented a question and it was not answered, try it again next week.
That's right.
We do this 3 times a week.
Thank you for all the orc themed questions. You're wearing green, so that also is very orky.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys next time. I'm the Sound Alchemist.
Gershwan.
We're One Mind Syndicate, and we are out of here.